We need to have an awkward conversation about the 2026 NHL free agency class. Right before the season began, we saw Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov, and Jack Eichel all re-signing with their teams, making the top end of the 2026 free agency class look a lot less interesting. But that begs the question to me, what does the 2026 free agent crop look like now with some of the top stars gone, and is it still a good class to look forward to? Well, we're going to be answering that question here today, going through a ranking of the 15 best free agents in 2026 still remaining. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, as well as hit that notification bell for more videos just like this all throughout the hockey season. Now, I will admit it's a bit sad talking about the free agent class coming up already being a little bit weaker, and it's October. I will say this though, even though we've had some superstars leave the free agent class, that's kind of to be expected. But I think what's been left behind so far actually looks pretty interesting, and I would say depth-wise is far superior to what we saw in 2025, which, granted, low bar, I know, but still. And today we're going to go into the top 15 free agents of this class still remaining, and there's still quite a few really interesting players that I had to leave off the list. Some really good forwards like Mason Marchment, Matt Zuccarello, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Claude Giroux, players like Patrick Laine, Kuzmenko, even players like Jean-Gabriel Pageau still have some value. Now, getting us started with the best free agents of the 2026 crop, let's start out with a player that could get dealt, could get re-signed. We just have to wait and see in Rasmus Andersson of the Calgary Flames. Somebody I think the Flames should be dealing, but they're a wonky team sometimes, and I could easily see them re-signing Andersson for 7 years, even if I just don't think it makes sense for either side. Andersson is somebody I'm always pretty perplexed by because the skill set there and what he is capable at his best is a really good middle pair defenseman, sometimes even better than that. But in terms of the production and some of the defensive play sometimes, you often kind of want a little bit more from him. At least that's how my feeling was over the last couple of seasons. I mean, he had 50 points and then 49 points between 2022 and 2023. Then the last couple of seasons have been a little bit more lackluster. He started out insane last season, but really trailed off, especially in the points department and just the pure defensive play. It was not good in front of Dustin Wolf, and even though he could be a big trade chip this deadline, I ultimately do see the Flames eventually letting him go. On to number 14, we go on to a player that I doubt will actually get into free agency, but we'll talk about him anyways, and Patrick Kane of the Detroit Red Wings. Now, if he signs another 1-year, $3 million deal to stay in Detroit, nobody's surprised. I will say if the Red Wings do miss the playoffs again, maybe he'll think about going somewhere else. A large part of him going to Detroit was not just the fit, but also his confidence in their future. And even if they might have a good future, if they don't make the playoffs again, Kane's 36 years old. He's not getting any younger and might want to jump ship to a contender that can really give him a top 6 spot and a great chance at the Stanley Cup. But even at 36 years old, he's still doing fantastic things. This last year for Detroit, getting 59 points and 38 assists in 72 games, especially on the power play and in kind of more of a sheltered role. He can do some marvelous things with the puck on his stick still, and still has that to his game. So I think a lot of teams would still be lining up for him, and also would probably give him a pretty healthy pay raise going above $3 million, if I were to bet. Now on to a defenseman that so far this season has really impressed me, and that is Mike Matheson of the Montreal Canadiens. Somebody that could also be a trade chip for Montreal, but I just think it's very likely to end up going into free agency, testing his services at what would be 32 years old. Now he's somebody that always seems to have his haters and his massive lovers. I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to him. He's somebody that has had some great moments in terms of point scoring, but it seems like he's either a very point scoring defenseman or kind of comes back down to a more defensive level. Last year it kind of seemed like it was neither. He was kind of in no man's land as Lane Hudson took a lot of those offensive opportunities. So far this year, though, I mean, he looked really good in that Detroit game, looked really good in that first game, too. I thought he's looked amazing up to this point. I think he was already pretty due for a pretty big pay upgrade, going from $4.8 million to probably around $5.5, but if he's able to continue how good he's been playing throughout the course of the season, I could see him getting more than even $6 million. I mean, what he's shown so far has been extremely impressive, but even just as a second pairing power play D, he can fill that role pretty well still. Onto the 12th best FA of the 26 class, let's go on to Ryan McDonagh, who I just think is one of the most underrated defensemen and has been for a long time now. Really since joining Tampa Bay, he's kind of developed more into a defensive role, and I think he's played that very well, especially over these last 3 or so seasons, where I think in Nashville and Tampa Bay, he has been spectacular, especially this last year for Tampa, where I think he was behind Hedman, easily Tampa's best defenseman. He'll look to continue that onto this year, even though he's not going to get a huge contract or anything. everything, being 36 years old, I think he is worthy of pretty big money still at this point, and I could see him signing at around the same AAV as he got last, around $6.7 million, because I think as a middle pair defenseman, McDonough still has it. Now, before we keep going, let's talk about health. I know for me, my life has gotten so busy that I've started neglecting my health sometimes. But knowledge is power, especially of your own body, and that's why I want to introduce today's sponsor in LabCorp On Demand. I know for me and my work, sitting on my chair all day editing videos, I'm not the most active I could be. I'm getting their men's health test, which tests cholesterol, diabetes risk, total testosterone, and more. And getting started is super quick too. All you need to do is to go to the link on the screen or hit the link in the description down below and use code GRAVITE to get 20% off select tests, then make an appointment to walk in one of LabCorp's 2,000 patient service centers for sample collection. Your sample will be collected using the same methods as your doctor's office. This time though, no need to prick your own finger. Testing is performed at LabCorp's CAP-accredited, CLIA-certified clinical laboratories that typically process 3 million samples every week. It's so easy that you can even skip the waiting room and wait in your car or outside until the lab technician is ready to see you. And the greatest part about it is that it can be super quick too. You'll be notified by email when your results are ready as early as the very next day. So if you're serious about staying strong and healthy, optimizing your performance, and knowing your testosterone levels, head over to the link down below and use code GRAVITE to get 20% off select tests today. On to another older player, and one that I don't quite see getting into the open market, but we'll see if it becomes a story here, in Undersley of the New York Islanders. The Isles captain at 35 years old actually put up a spectacular season last year, was really good for the Islanders, and didn't really get the credit that he deserved for it. Got almost 30 goals, hitting 29, got 54 points in 82 games, and looked a lot faster than he had been in the last couple of seasons before that, and was just capitalizing on all his chances, using that physicality that he has always had to the best of his abilities, and just kind of becoming a more well-rounded forward as he gets into his twilight years. I will be honest though, I don't see him leaving the island, being the captain there, and already having a pretty good contract. I don't think he's going to be looking for the most money in the world. I think he just wants to stay as a foundational part of that Islanders future and kind of a leader for a lot of those younger guys, which we've already seen him go into that role already, but I think he wants to kind of continue that work, and I doubt we'll see him on July 1st or anything, but still in terms of the free agents is one of the better ones out there. Now, a big story to talk about here is Evgeny Malkin, who comes down at the 10th spot here in the rankings, but is somebody, even at 39 years old, still has a lot of great offensive moments to him, and if he does hit the open market, would be fascinating. You can see, he still offensively can put up some pretty big numbers in the last few years. I mean, he was up to 83 points in 2023, and so far this year, I mean, I'm recording this during the Islanders game, he's already gotten a goal and an assist, so it would be 4 points in 2 games. Not too shabby for, again, a 39-year-old we're talking about. Kind of like a Patrick Kane, if you put him in the right spots, in the right positions, he's still going to find ways to score, as he's one of the most naturally gifted players really we've seen over the last couple of decades. So I think a lot of teams would be lining up to have him as a middle six center, maybe even a second line center and kind of a power play role. So many teams would be open to that and would love to have him on, and they absolutely should be lining up because Malkin still at this point is a special player. Now at number 9, we get into our first goaltender of the list here, going to Jacob Markstrom, the starter of the New Jersey Devils. Now, in Markstrom's case, he'll be 36 entering next year's free agency. It'll be interesting to see what New Jersey does with their goaltending, because in Markstrom's case, he's getting older. He's aged pretty well up to this point, though, so far. So does New Jersey try to keep him on kind of a shorter-term contract? What will they kind of have as a succession plan? That'll kind of be something I'll be keeping an eye on here. But Markstrom still at that size and what he is capable of, I think he is just a very solid starter at this point. Nothing exceptional, nothing that's going to steal you series just because of him, but he's going to do his job and do it pretty well. And even though he just got a 900 save percentage last year, he was dealing with a pretty up and down defense in New Jersey. And I mean, considering things, did pretty well. Now let's keep going on to the 8th best free agent in next year's class, on to Alex Ovechkin. And he's on the list, yes. Do I see him entering free agency? No, let alone signing with another team? Absolutely not. What does he sign for if it's with Washington? Is it for anything other than just 1 year on his contract? Does he go year by year? Does he try to keep going? So many questions that I just want answers to. Now we go on to another Washington Capital here, but one that I think is a little bit more likely to go, and that is John Carlson on the defensive side. Now, I say a little bit more likely. I still don't think Carlson would end up leaving Washington, considering how much of a mainstay he has been there. And just like Ovechkin, he had a great year last season. I would say in more ways than Ovechkin, rebounding from what he had been in the past. Even though the points totals are largely what we saw the same back in 2024, I think the defensive play was so much more improved last season, and he's looking to carry that over onto this year. He's always kind of been more of an offensive D, but now in his older age, getting a little more responsible, which I love to see that. And Washington's D-core has really been able to benefit from that too. Now, getting into the top 6 free agents of this class, this is where we really start to boost in terms of the quality. And next up, we go on to forward Nick Schmaltz out of the Utah Mammoth. Schmaltz has always kind of been a weird one, it feels like, in Utah's system, because he's always kind of been number 2 to a Clayton Keller and has put up some pretty good results, but hasn't been able to find really the elite gear yet. But still, he had his best season in terms of point scoring last year, getting 63 points in 82 games with Utah, and just continuing to climb steadily year after year. In Schmaltz's case, though, the health has been a large question mark throughout the course of this year, but of course of his career. The last couple of seasons have been a lot more steady, a lot more consistent there, which I think really adds to the value. If Schmaltz gets to the open market, though, I could see potentially upwards of $8 million being thrown around, especially if you're in need of a crafty playmaking forward. Schmaltz is probably among the best of this class. Now, on a different, more power forward scaling option in the forward group, let's go on to Alex Tuch, who starts out our top 5 here, and is somebody that I think as a leader in that Sabres room would be devastating to lose for Buffalo. But the thing is, Buffalo's kind of been a little bit stingy when it comes to the contract negotiations so far, and Tuch, who is making just $4.7 million, is due for a humongous pay upgrade, and he is worthy of that. I mean, the production over the past few years has been a little bit inconsistent, sure, but 79 points and 36 goals back in 2023. He got 67 points, 36 goals this last season. In terms of the goal scoring, in terms of the power play ability, Tuch has always kind of been at a great level and a very consistent one too. Considering his age, not too old either, and considering how much of a playoff style game I think he could have, I think a lot of teams would really gravitate towards him. I know I say playoff game he could have. I know he was very solid in Vegas, but it feels like forever since we have seen Vegas Alex Tuch. So I think some teams might be a little bit wary about how much he's able to do, but I think his style fits naturally towards April, May, and June. And I think a lot of teams, especially wanting the extra little bit of grit, of punch in their lineup, Tuch would bring it pretty effortlessly. I don't know in terms of the contract what he would get, but again, upwards of $8 million wouldn't surprise me. On to number 4, we go into the last goaltender of the list here and go on to Sergei Bobrovsky. Like Markstrom, I do see him eventually re-signing, though at Bobrovsky, why would he leave Florida? He has been so good, especially over these last few years, especially in the playoffs, such a big part of that team, such a big face and a big leader in that room. There's really no reason to stop what's happened. And same thing goes with players like Brad Marchand and Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett, of course, in last year's free agency. I just feel like Florida, even if it might come down to the wire, are going to find a way to keep him at a pretty reasonable deal. I think he could sign potentially a Brad Marchand type like deal where we see longer term, lower AAV. That seems to be what Florida really wants to go after. And I think Bobrovsky would absolutely be worthy of that. I mean, at 37 years old, he has just aged brilliantly, playing some of the best hockey of his life over the last couple of playoffs. So why not continue to bet on him? Now moving on to the top 3 free agents for 2026 that still, up to this point, have yet to re-sign. Let's go on to another Russian here in Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. He's somebody that has just put up great season, production after production, year after year. I mean, ever since he's come to the Rangers, I mean, his worst season was what, like 58 points in 42 games? Wow. Falling off so badly. Even this last year, as he started to age, he's still got 89 points and 37 goals in 80 games. You'll still take that very much. And even though some points defensively he's not going to be the greatest, it's still Artemi Panarin. He's still one of the most gifted players out there. When he has the puck on his stick, he's a wizard and just does so much for that Rangers team that they need more of. That speed, that talent, that pure skill. He's really the only one in that Rangers team truly bringing that every single night. And that's why I think the Rangers will do a lot to keep him. I don't see him getting the same type of contract he got last time at $11.6 million, but with the cap rising, and that's the term everybody's using now, maybe that ends up happening, but I think he'll settle more around the 8 to 9, maybe 10 million range, but I don't see him getting the same contract, even if it is with the Rangers. But still, one to keep track on, and if he gets disgruntled in New York, if they miss the playoffs again, then I could pretty easily see him walking into free agency, and he would be a fun player to see back in free agency again, considering how fun he was the first time around. Now on to the top two, we go on to Marty Necas now of the Colorado Avalanche. Somebody that is a scary player for Colorado, considering what just went down with Mikko Rantanen trading for Marty Necas and having him as kind of the replacement, just for him to already kind of be in a weird spot with his situation. We've heard that they're pretty far in negotiations, not in terms of far down the line, but pretty far apart. And we've already heard trade interest around teams like Toronto and others, and I might make a video on that down the line. Let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in that. But Necas is somebody that also can be, like a Mikko Rantanen, a pretty transformative player, and like Rantanen, kind of more of a number 2 on a line rather than a number 1, but still, what he's been able to do in a kind of a complementary role, I mean, he's one of the best out there in that role. At 26 years old, I mean, the production, especially last season, was able to speak for itself, getting 55 points in 49 games for Carolina, 28 points in 30 games for Colorado, and what we've seen already in the regular season, 2 goals in 1 game, getting off to a pretty good start there. Necas kind of feels like a strange player, though, not in terms of how he plays, but in terms of what he might want in negotiations. It seems like he was already pretty stingy with Carolina, which was a reason when they were able to trade him off to Colorado, and now with the Avs, it seems like he might want to test the open market. Who the heck knows? But I think in Necas' case, among these kind of top 5, top 6 guys, he's maybe the most likely guy, in my opinion, to test free agency. But now we get into number 1, and this is a player that we've heard a little bit recently with some of the other wingers that we've had re-sign, but Adrian Kempe comes in at the number 1 spot, and I will say, I do think, unfortunately, the Kings will find a way to get it done, just like Artemi Panarin in New York. Kempe is kind of the lifeblood of the goal scoring, of the speed on that Kings team, and to lose him on top of Kopitar after this year, oh boy, that offense will be rude. Just awful. Which is why I think the Kings will do everything to keep him, but we have heard recently with the Kaprizov contracts, with McDavid and Eichel, of course, being re-signed, that Kempe's camp was going from, hey, we want maybe around $10 million to now around $12 million, which is bringing him up to, of course, the Kyle Connor, the Mitch Marner range, and I love Adrian Kempe, but I don't think so, but he's 29 years old, right in the prime of his career, and for what he's done in LA recently, he's hard to really deny. Over the last couple of seasons, back-to-back 70-plus years, and 10 points as well in 6 games in last year's playoffs. He's something that, again, really is just the straw that stirs the drink there in LA. They need him for the power play, they need him for the speed. It would just be an awful loss to have him go away. So even though $12 million, I think, would be out of the question for me, we also just have to consider LA, and Kempe's been making $5.5 million. He wants that healthy pay raise like everybody does right now. So we'll see. I think it might be a situation where if Kempe is really hell-bent on that $12 million number, he becomes a lot more likely as a free agent, and if he does, him and Necas together will be 2 really good wing options to have the option to go after. But those are the top 15 free agents that have yet, up to this point, re-signed so far. So a pretty interesting group, I would say, on both defensive and the forward side. We'll, again, see how it actually lines up when we get to July. But I would say so far, even though we've had some superstars unfortunately leave us, it's still a decent group. And even if a couple of these guys end up re-signing between now and then, I think the depth here is way stronger, and that will help a lot of teams actually looking to make sizable moves next summer. And if you guys enjoyed that, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell for more videos just like this. Of course, comment down below your thoughts on the top 15 rankings. What did you agree? What did you disagree with? Did I leave anybody out that you thought should be on here? And who do you want your team to go after on this list going into next summer? Let me know your thoughts down below on that, and share the video with all the hockey fans out there. Click on this card for all of my hockey predictions content right in one playlist. And if you guys want to support the channel just a little bit more, you can hit the join button to become a channel member, where you get exclusive videos every single week that are member exclusive, on top of member exclusive polls, member exclusive emojis to use in the comments, and a lot of extra perks there. Plus, you get your name on the screen right here with all these beautiful people. And big thank you to everyone that has supported so far. If you guys want to join, it's just a couple bucks a month. Just hit the join button by the subscribe button, or hit the link in the description down below, and it helps the channel out a ton. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.